Ever get the feeling like, I don't know, maybe you're trying to walk a tightrope, except someone swapped it out for like a tripwire and
Mm.
then handed you the detonator?
Yeah, I think I see where you're going with this.
That's Nick Fuentes, right? Or at least that's kind of the vibe I get from this deep dive we're doing today.
You're not wrong. I mean, the guy's like a walking paradox, right? You've got people lining up to like pledge their allegiance, and then others who, let's just say they have some strong opinions.
Yeah, strong opinions. That's one way to put it. But it's true, there's not a lot of middle ground with this guy, is there? And that's exactly why we're here, why he sparks such strong feelings. We're going beyond just, the surface level. This is a deep dive, after all.
Exactly. Gotta love a good deep dive. And what's interesting here is that the person who wrote this analysis, they're not coming at this totally neutral themselves.
Oh, yeah, like they're a fan.
Well, not quite. More like they agree with Fuentes on some pretty big stuff. Like his whole take on Russia, for example, and the whole COVID thing. They're on board with him there. But
Okay,
then,
boom, hits the fan.
kinda, yeah. It's almost like they hit this wall, this point where they just can't follow him anymore.
And what is that, like a difference in values or?
Well, the author actually calls out what they see as a reliance on, get this, quips and slogans instead of actual reasoned arguments.
Okay, I mean, I can see that. He's definitely got a way with words, but sometimes it's more like Twitter speak than like actual intellectual discourse.
Exactly. And the author gives this great example. Let me see if I can find it. Ah, here it is. Legalize assault rifles, but only for trans people.
Oof, yeah, okay, I see what you mean.
Yeah.
That's definitely a choice. Provocative, sure, but is there any real substance behind it?
And that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? It's all about getting a reaction, stirring the pot. And look, it's working, right? People are talking, but at what cost?
Right, right. And that actually brings us to another point the author makes, and this one's kind of juicy.
Oh, do tell.
It's about Fuentes' whole image, his whole thing.
Yeah.
Like, he's a Catholic, right? Big on traditional values, that sort of thing. But the author's questioning whether his actions actually line up with those beliefs.
Oh, so like a hypocrisy angle. That's always interesting.
Yeah. Is it genuine belief? Is it just a persona he puts on to appeal to a certain audience? Or is it, like you said, something in between?
It's hard to say, and honestly, that's probably exactly what he wants. Keeps people guessing, keeps them engaged.
True, true. And it gets even more complicated when you bring in how he justifies some of his actions. The author points this out. It's like no matter what he does, good, bad, whatever, he justifies it the same way
And how's that?
by pointing to his own success. Like, hey, look at me, I'm successful, so clearly whatever I'm doing is right,
Oh, wow. So it's all about the fame, the platform, the money.
basically.
Yeah.
Like that's his defense.
Yeah,
And it makes you wonder, what kind of message does that send to his followers, right?
totally. If that's the message they're getting, that success trumps everything else, that's a bit concerning, isn't it?
Right. And speaking of messages and followers, we got to talk about the Groypers.
Ah, yes. His devoted followers.
And this is where the analysis really got me thinking. They compare the Groypers to other, like, intense online fandoms, like Owen Benjamin's Bears, that whole thing.
Oh, interesting comparison. And there are definitely some parallels there. Fandom in any form can be this incredibly powerful force, right? Whether it's for a band, a sports team, or in this case, a political commentator. It's about belonging, about feeling like you're part of something bigger.
Exactly. But like you said, there's always a flip side, that potential for things to get, well, a little dark.
Absolutely. When your whole identity gets so wrapped up in a group, a leader, you risk losing yourself in it. And that's where things can get dangerous, both for the individual and for society as a whole.
Which is, I think, what the author's getting at with the Groypers, right? It's less about having your own individual beliefs and more about aligning yourself with whatever Fuentes is pushing at that moment.
It becomes almost like an echo chamber where dissent is discouraged and critical thinking goes out the window.
Which is kind of scary, to be honest.
Absolutely. And it really highlights the importance of being able to separate the person from the ideology, especially online. It's so easy to get caught up in the excitement, the feeling of belonging, but you can't let that cloud your judgment.
It makes you think, can you really engage with someone like Nick Fuentes with all his everything without getting pulled in?
That's the million-dollar question, right? And there's no easy answer. But I think the key takeaway here is the importance of critical thinking. Question everything. Don't just blindly follow someone, no matter how charismatic or base they might seem. Because in the end, the only person you can truly rely on is yourself.
And on that note, that's Nick Fuentes. Complicated guy, complicated legacy.
Definitely a lot to unpack there.
So to our listeners, what do you think? Let us know. Can you engage without being engulfed?